breaking it down piece by piece, how everything that we've discussed throughout series 2 in the Listen to Me When series can come together in one piece. Because if you've been tuning in with the recent lives, you'll know that we've discussed several topics over the last 3 weeks. We went into how to become more consistent in your actions, how to become more aligned with your goals. And then we were speaking about our environment. We were discussing how we can adjust or how we change the way we act and how we behave depending on our environment. And I feel like a lot of people understood that one. They could comprehend the information we were sharing, and they also could really feel with themselves that when they're being pulled or pushed or brought from pillar to post, when they're in these situations and in these environments, and how it really dictates and determines the actions that they take. And it can really dictate and determine the results that they go and get. And then following on from that, we spoke about bridging the gap from who you are to who you want to be. And not just in a cute and fluffy sense of, oh, if you take these actions, here's the outcome. We broke down a 3-step formula on what it takes to get the inevitable outcome of achieving your goals, dreams, and desires. So guys, we're going to get straight into it on the whiteboard, going over the full map breakdown, how, as I've mentioned, each episode from series 2, everything appears to be good. No one's wrote anything in the chat right now, but it seems like everybody's understanding what it is we are doing. I can see reactions coming in. Everything looks all good. Okay, amazing. So we're going to start off, first of all, in the center. And where it actually begins, as we can imagine, is with us. It's with you. It's with where you are right now at this current point in time. And if for you right now, you're trying to understand where you're at, who you are, what level you're trying to get to, then this is going to really help everything kind of piece together from the episodes we've done previously. So we're going to start off at the very basic level, which can make sense for everybody, right? We're going to start in the center, which is you. And with you, as we've understood over time, over these conversations, over the lessons we've provided, through these live streams, through the videos that we've been creating, that when we start with where you are, it means where you are right now, who you are in this process, who it is you're trying to become on this journey, what it is you want to go out and achieve, and ultimately who it is you believe you can be. Because again, there's several ways that we can break this down, and there's many methods, and there's many structures, and there's always cool, cute, fluffy ways of breaking down information, helping you understand it. But at the end of the day, the point of this is not to make it sound like something that's interesting or it makes it sound more exciting. This is just basic fundamental principles on what is necessary to bridge the gap, not just in the cute way of our external, to go out and be able to get materialistic things and be able to manifest and all these types of things. Although we discuss that and we share that information on the platform, what we want to explain is the necessary steps you have to take to get from where we are now, who we are and who we can become, who we need to be to express the life that we want to live. So if you've been following on from the series, you'll know that it's episode 1. We were discussing you and how you need to shift your reality, how you need to go from being in one position to another. And we were breaking down what that looks like in several aspects. And we all have different versions of ourselves that different people can see, different versions of ourselves that other people can relate to, that we can sometimes do what's called code switching, where we're in one location, we speak a certain way, we behave a certain way, and then we get in another environment and we can behave a certain way and speak a certain way there. For example, you could be at work, you could be in your job, and the way that you speak there is extremely differently to how you would speak when you're with your friends or how you would speak around your family. And that sometimes can be a way that most people actually lose themselves in the process because they struggle to understand, who is it I really am at the core? Who do I say I want to be? Who do I demonstrate myself to be? Who do I let others see me as? How do I portray myself in different areas? And as you can imagine, when you're doing this, you're almost like fragmenting your identity. You're fragmenting your reality in all these different aspects and different places. And as time goes on, you can start to question, who really am I? And we have two versions of these realities. We have, first of all, our stated, which is the one that we say we want to live. And then we have our occupied, which is the one that we really live. And I know some of you that have been following on for a long time and that you've been listening to the series and you've been plugging in with the lives. I just want to check the chat and check everything is all good. Yup, seems sweet. So listen, we've been explaining this, and for some of you that have been here for some time and you've been listening to this and you've been following along, you're like, okay man, we've gone over this part before. I understand it now. I get how this works. I get that where I am right now is what I'm occupying, is my behaviours, my habits, my traits, the people I'm around, all these types of things, I get it. But here's what we're doing. We're breaking down the full map, because on those other videos, we gave segmented and breakdowns on each individual piece. The purpose of this is so now, if there was a part that didn't make as much sense as another one, or you couldn't quite put the puzzle together, you couldn't quite see how your environment really reflected on the daily votes you were taking, or you couldn't see how by stating your reality really mattered about who you was hanging around. Maybe you couldn't understand that. Whereas right now, we understand the difference between our stated and occupied reality. And for those that are new to this and haven't been following along just yet, your occupied reality is the life that you are living right now. It's who you are, it's your habits, your traits, your beliefs, your actions, what makes you up as a person, what you see around you, the life you're living is your occupied reality. And your stated reality is the one you say you want to live. It's when you say, I want to have a nice big house, I want to go get this car, I want to be around these people, I want to be making this money. And it's almost like affirmations and prayers and stuff you're putting out there into the world, higher power, God, universe, whatever your belief system is, you're putting it out there, asking for things to change. And you're saying, man, I want to live this life. But there's a gap between who you really are and where you are right now and where it is you say you want to get to. There's a gap that needs bridging between the two. So how do we then go from our occupied reality to our stated reality? We have to make several changes in between that process, because this represents the journey. This represents the hardships, the learning, the late nights, the shifting the people you're around. This comes with sacrifice, where you have to give up all of the traits and habits that this person creates, and then you need to step into the version of yourself that does the things that the stated version does. We mentioned this in another video previously, where we're discussing how if we was to compare who we are right now versus who it is we want to become, how do they behave? How do they operate? How do they think? How do they work? How much effort and energy do they put into their effort, to their time and day? How much effort, time and energy do they put into their occupation, to the things that they actually really want to build, or do they make excuses? How consistent is the person in the stated reality? Do they really take action? Do they work hard? How have they gone and attained the things you claim you want? It's about bridging the gap between who you are right now into who it is you want to be by shifting your identity, which is made up of your habits, beliefs, actions, and traits. So that is how we bridge the gap. But what do we then need to do? First of all, we have to be in control of our environment. And our environment isn't just what's around us outside. It isn't just what's in front of us, or we can physically touch, or we can physically see. Our environment is also the people we surround ourselves with. Our environment is what is completely sending us signals on a constant basis that is either reflecting our stated reality or our occupied one. Because let's be honest, when we're familiar with a specific environment, when we're used to seeing the same things again and again, we do not need to take any further action, because we know what happens here. We have the pattern recognition and the ability to know that what happens here, I have seen it time and time again. So what does it do? It keeps us comfortable. It keeps us locked in one space. Sorry guys, I just want to check the chat again and make sure everything's all good. Yeah, we're blessed. Is this all making sense so far, guys? I know I'm fired up. I know I get excited on these calls. I just want to ensure, just put a 1 in the chat. Let me know if this is all making sense so far. I don't want to go too quick or breeze over anything that people may have questions. Please make sure you're leveraging the chat as well if you have any questions at any point about anything specific that I am sharing. Because the point of this is not just to blast information in a live call. The point of this is so that when I'm explaining this and doing breakdowns, that you guys have the opportunity to ask specific questions about a specific part, but not just questions. Feel free to share your current experiences. Like, for anybody right now that can relate to their environment, can anybody actually be honest, raise a hand and say, there's times that their environment can bring the old them out. If you're on this journey and you're currently trying to skip from the occupied reality to the stated reality, you're doing the hard work, you're putting the reps in, you're changing, you're making different habits, you're making different beliefs, you're working, but there's a certain place, a certain person, a certain environment that has the power and authority to strip you back to the occupied reality. Has anyone ever experienced that? Where you feel the progress coming, you see the changes happening, you can feel the internal switch happening in real time, you start to see it, but there's maybe a specific message that could come to your phone that makes you change your mind. You could be locked in for 7 days. You could be locked in. You could say on a Saturday, that's it, I'm done. Or you can get to Monday and say, I'm going all in, it's Monday. It comes to Friday, you get that message, you're coming out. Do you want to come to the function? Do you want to come do X, Y, Z? And all of a sudden, all of this that's happening in the journey, in the gap that you're trying to bridge, all of a sudden you're like, oh, I've been working so hard. I can justify doing these things that have got me to where I have been. I can justify just doing it once, it won't ruin it. Then what happens? We see ourselves reverting and we start behaving again as the person that right now we're trying to change. We start to give in to these types of things, and our environment is a key contributor to that. Amazing. So I just want to answer this. Recently I've been acting as the version of myself that has achieved a goal by simply asking what the version of me would do. Amazing, bro. That means you've literally been applying this. You are behaving as the person that you need to be to make this happen. And I just want to give a disclaimer. This may sound cute, fluffy, rah-rah, woo-woo, whatever. At the end of the day, whether you see this from a spiritual perspective or you see it from a physical and logical perspective, understand this. We can all agree, right? I'm sure we can all agree on this. If I behave like someone that is successful, pays attention to their health, their fitness, and whatever other goal I have, I'm going to start to get more closer to that goal. I'm going to start to see results because I'm constantly in compounding my actions, right? But if we start to do the same things again and again, and we expect a different result, what does that make us? The definition of insanity. If we can sit there and think we can change our reality from where we are now to where we want to get to by behaving the same way that the person that gets to a specific environment does, whether that be certain friends texting you to go out, certain partner, whatever, and that can dictate or determine who you become, shouldn't our awareness be more in our environment? Imagine you've got your desk in front of you and you're like, I'm locking in, I'm learning a new skill, I'm going to go and apply all this information I'm learning. And you walk into your room and your desk is filthy. You walk into your office and there's rubbish all over your desk. Does that reflect who you're trying to become? Or does that reflect who you currently are? Because I can assure you now, when you pay attention to what's around you and you start to say, the version of me that has everything I want, they wouldn't live like this. Or have you ever caught yourself saying, when I achieve X, Y, Z, then I'll do it. When I become X, Y, Z, then I'll change. That's like saying, once I get a six-pack, I'll start going to the gym. Once I get a six-pack, I'm going to start taking effort into my fitness. I'm going to start taking habit or taking action towards my health. Like, it doesn't make sense. How can you say you're going to change once you get the result when the change precedes the actual result itself? How can we make that happen? So by creating an environment that we can start to see the changes in, you're allowing excellence to breed in that environment. You are creating the soil that the excellence, the results, the version of you can grow in. Because let's imagine like this. Let's imagine you've got soil that is treated with hate. There's no love in it. You're not watering it. You're not feeding it. You're putting bad seeds in it. You're not giving it sunlight. You're not feeding it as often as you should. Can you expect something great to grow in that flower bed? Can you expect it to? If you want something to flourish in a sense of a fruit, vegetable, or a plant, what environment do you want to put it in? You want to put it in an environment with the best conditions. You want to put it in an environment where it can thrive. You wouldn't go and plant something that you are so keen on making grow and giving life to in bad conditions. You'd make sure you had the best soil. You'd make sure you was watering it on time. You'd make sure it had adequate sunlight. You'd pay attention to exactly where you're putting it in your garden to ensure it got what it needed, the correct nutrients, because you are creating the environment for it to thrive and become what it needs to become, to transmute from a seed into the end result. So why don't we do the same with where we plant ourselves? Why don't we plant ourselves in environments that actually work to our attainment of our goal? Why do we not do that? Why do we not put ourselves in the environment that help us grow, that contribute to the growth of our lives? Why don't we do that? Why do we think that is? Insanity. Facts. Why do we think that is? Let me know in the chat if you've got an idea why you think we do things we know we shouldn't do. Because I would like to say it's because we like to be comfortable. I would like to say we know what comes from staying in a place of comfortability. We know what happens through pattern recognition if we do the same thing again and again. I know, although the outcome may not be positive and it may not be exactly what I want, it's familiar. Most people, as I've said many times, most people would sacrifice happiness to be comfortable. Most people would rather choose misery over becoming happy by staying in a situation. Although it doesn't serve them, they know the outcome. It's predictable. They know what can happen. They don't need to concern themselves with different variables because although it logically doesn't make sense to stay where I am, this is what I know. And that is what it does. It's fear and uncertainty of what happens when you cross the bridge in that gap. But then how do we stray away from the environment? What follows on from the environment? We now need to act. So we've got our occupied reality we're currently living. We know the gap we're trying to bridge. We understand we've got to shift our environment. What do we need to do now? We need to act first. Because what do we think happens if we don't act before we sit back and ask ourselves, how do we really feel? People are comfortable with familiarity. Exactly. Comfort zone. Thank you, Jen. Ryan, amazing to see you, Ryan. Sanity. Exactly. So listen, we need to act first. And can anyone agree that at some point in their life they've said, I'll take action when I feel like it. I'll take action when the time feels right. When everything aligns and everything's all right, and on the calendar where I've never seen it say perfect timing, can anyone say they've waited for that date to come? The date of perfect timing where we celebrate that holiday of the perfect time? I've never seen it. So we need to act first before we feel like it. Because that is what breeds from taking action. What breeds from taking action is a result. So by now knowing the gap we need to bridge, the environment we need to create to thrive in it, now we need to take action on it. Because by taking action, only then can we actually start to contribute to the attainment of our goal. Only then can we start to see the results build from there. But what happens when you start to take action? When you start to see results? Has anyone ever felt this before? When you start to work really hard, you start to change. You're changing your environment. You're changing your habits. You're changing your beliefs. You're changing as a person. You're taking the action every single day, but you'll hit a bump in the road. All of a sudden, you'll start to see adversity. You'll head into chaos. We've discussed this on several lives now, where we go through these life cycles where you're either going into chaos, you're in chaos, or you're coming out of chaos. You're going into a storm, in a storm, or heading out of a storm. So when you've taken action, we can all agree there's going to be learning curves in the journey, right? We can all agree there's been times in our journeys where we've had to sit back and say, man, why is this happening? Everything was going so well. I was seeing results. I was growing. So now why all of a sudden have I hit turmoil? Why all of a sudden am I seeing a setback? Why am I seeing a pullback? And it feels personal, right? And what do you think that does to most people? If you haven't built this properly, if we haven't built our environment properly, if we haven't comprehended and made a committed decision that we are going to go full throttle and we're going to make it happen regardless of how we're feeling, because being committed is by doing the things you said you would do long after the mood you said it in has passed. What do most people do? It knocks your confidence. People are comfortable with familiarity, but what does that then do? This, when you start to come through what is called the pressure test, when you now start to go through a pressure test where this checks, okay, how much work have they really done? How much action have they really taken? How much do they really want it? How much do they want to succeed? Because understand this, if there is a higher power, God, whatever it is you believe in, I always state it that way, but if there is something up there, every person out there says they want what you want. Imagine how many people you could walk down the street and you could say to them, hey, would you like to have £1 million? Would you like to have health and prosperity? Would you like to have a healthy love and relationship? Would you love to have your dream home? How many people are going to say yes? Most. If they're sane, if they have actual mental clarity or they're actually a normal person, they're going to say, yeah, of course, I would love to have everything I ever wanted given to me. Because who wouldn't? Everyone would love to do it without the hassle, right? Everyone would love to do it without the setbacks. Everyone would love to just have things given to them. But what happens to see if you are deserving of what it is you say you want? So if you really are committed to winning, you're going to be tested. You have to lose a few times so you can learn in the journey. So you're going to be tested. And what does this look like? This could be a test from your old environment trying to pull you back. This could be a test from the people that you said you were no longer going to surround yourself with because they reflect too much of where you are right now and they don't reflect on who you're trying to become. Maybe you are taking action, but now you're afraid because you start to feel the pressure. Taking action, you're now trying to think bigger than you feel, and you're putting your thoughts before your actual emotions, and that doesn't mean you've got to discredit how you feel whatsoever. This means that even on the days you feel like quitting and the days you feel like not doing it, you remember why you started in the first place. That is what this is. So you're going to have a pressure test on seeing how much do you really want it? How much do you believe you can achieve it? How much do you want to succeed? How much do you want to win? How much do you want to hold the stated reality in your hands? How much do you want to wake up and you're no longer dreaming? You're dreaming while you're awake. How much do you want to make that happen? When the pressure test hits, that's going to ensure, okay, we'll see if you're fit for it. We'll see if you're cut for it. Is this making sense to you guys? Have you ever experienced this? Maybe this is the first time you've heard this kind of information. You're like, man, this guy's screaming all the time, but this is pure passion. Honestly, if I could deliver this in a calmer way, I would probably be all over it, but this is just how it comes out. I'm sorry, I always speak from my heart. I don't really plan too much what's said. We just have this kind of structure. But for me, I believe in this wholeheartedly because this is exactly what I've experienced. And let me tell you something, and it is a secret, but it shouldn't be, and hopefully it doesn't come to you by surprise. Like we discussed in the Formapper Series 1, when we were saying about how you had to work on your self-worth, your self-belief, your confidence, and all this stuff, it doesn't matter what level you get to. This is going to show up in your life again and again and again. So you need to understand the cycle. This is a life cycle. Because once you achieve your stated reality, what then happens next? When you achieve a goal, what happens next? You move the goalpost. You set a new one. Your stated reality now becomes your occupied reality. And although at one point in time you said, I want to be a millionaire. I want this house. I want this family. I want to live in this area, this location. I want to travel more. I want to do X, Y, Z. As soon as you achieve that, next thing you're going to say, I've got a new stated reality now. Because this is now my current occupied reality. Your occupied reality has now become that life of your dreams. So now you're going to say, I need to dream bigger. I need to think bigger. I've achieved everything I thought I would way sooner than I thought I could. And now we're here. So now your occupied has become your previously stated reality. So then you come back into this. You do it again. It's a cycle that continues through life. And if you can master this, if every single time you take action, you start to see results, you then hit a point of a pullback, a setback, something doesn't always go your way, you head into the storm. You're not heading into the storm as the first occupied reality individual. You're heading into it as someone with a fortified mind because you've seen this before. You have the pattern recognition of what happens when you go to the next level. You know what happens when you grow. You know what happens, who you have to leave behind, the actions you have to take, and the environment that you need to shift, and the new environment you need to formulate to be able to thrive when the new state of reality comes. You understand this. So the pressure test is to see, okay, how much do you really want it? Because everyone's telling me they want this, but how much do you want it? By getting your pressure tested. But then what happens? What do we have to do when we pass the pressure test, which comes in many shapes and forms? It could be something massive, it could be something small, it could be the end of your business and you've got to try find a sum of money to keep it afloat and keep the doors open. It could be something as simple as you've had a stressful day and your actual goal is just to get fit and healthy in the gym. We always use that analogy, but it's universal language. Everyone understands what I'm saying when I say that. Comes to the pressure test, and what do we need to do? The daily vote. And what the daily vote is essentially saying that just one action alone isn't enough to tear down your life. One poor action alone isn't enough to ruin all the progress you've made. Depends on the size of the action, of course. But if you've started to behave like a new version of you, you're taking action, you survived the pressure test, the daily vote essentially is what side are you voting for with your actions every single day. So when you make a decision, whether it be as simple as yes or no, let's say yes to the stated reality, no to the occupied one. The votes stack. The votes contribute to the overall picking of what reality you live, of the individual you become. So every time you look at this environment, you get an opportunity. Let's say every single day you get an opportunity with your environment to either succumb to it or to grow it. You get a choice. You're going to vote, yes, I am going to overcome where I am now and build the environment that I can flourish in. Or no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to say yes to the environment that's got me to where I am right now that I'm so keen and desperate to get away from. We understand this? Because the votes, it's about creating a trend. It's not about just doing everything one moment at a time. It's not about one decision at a time, because that's what leads us into the next part of this structure. But with the votes, it's about zooming out. It's about what is contributing over a longer period of time, which takes us to the final step, and it ties in with this nicely, the invisible compound. Now, the invisible compound is where the question where most people lie most of the time, where they're sat there and they're saying to themselves, man, when's this going to pay off? When is this going to work? And why does this tie in with the daily vote? Because the votes are silent. There'll be a compound effect of these votes where all of a sudden, all of the yeses you've been saying to the right things and all of the no's you've been saying to the wrong things suddenly come into fruition and you start to notice the change. Every time you say, I'm saying yes to all of the ideas, to all of the opportunities that the stated reality version of me would say yes to, you are voting one time for this. Every single time. Now, imagine over a day, the amount of decisions you get to make that contribute to the attainment of the stated reality. You've changed your environment, you've changed who you're around, you've been taking action. When things go wrong, you work on yourself and you know you're going to get through it. You find a way through it, you seek solutions rather than seeking problems. You've done the personal growth, you've built the foundations from Series 1, so you're already a person of fortitude, you're already a person of mental resilience. And then your votes every single day, you're saying, yep, every single day, every decision is based upon what that version of me would do. When you sit back and before you answer and you sit back and you say to yourself, right now, if I had to make a decision, does this contribute to who I want to be or who I currently am? So let's look at it again. Let's give an example. We always use the gym again, universal language. If someone offers you an opportunity, if your environment says, hey man, England's playing tonight, let's get on the beers instead of going to the gym. You may be so enticed by that because you've got all the reasons why. You'll make every excuse. You'll negotiate with yourself. You say, man, England, we're only playing a couple times. This could be the last time we play in the World Cup. This could be the last game I get to see until the Euros in a couple of years' time. I don't know if I'm going to get to experience that again. Imagine how much fun the boys are going to have. And you'll be negotiating with yourself. I'll go tomorrow. I'll train tomorrow. But then you're not counting in all of the extra calories, everything you have from the beers and how you're going to feel tomorrow and how that's going to keep having that knock-on effect. But if you say, listen, man, I'm committed. I'm not going to go out. I'm going to do the things that the version of me, that's not to say you can't enjoy yourself, but just understand in this example that right now, I know that if I stick to my routine, I stick to the environment I'm building, I stick to the compounded efforts that I have been doing to attain my stated reality, that's a win for me. So when you make that switch, like we discussed in my last live, the more you do of the right thing, the less enticed or the way that you view the wrong thing is no longer as enticing to you. It's no longer as exciting. It's no longer something that gives you a dopamine hit. You start to get a dopamine hit from growth. You start to get a dopamine hit when you start to see the results of taking actions in a stated reality. So all this other stuff that you've left behind in your occupied reality, like, man, that stuff ain't even fun anymore. That's not who I am anymore. That's not the environment that I thrive in anymore. It no longer becomes attractive to you. And this is the thing, I don't know if anyone's ever experienced this, and maybe it's a bit far-fetched, maybe some people may not be on that journey yet, but has there ever been a time where you fell out of love with something that you used to love doing so much? And maybe you had almost like a feeling of like a hole in your heart where you're like, man, I used to enjoy doing that so much. Why did I no longer want to do it? Why don't I find that fun anymore? And there's times where you can go down memory lane and you can reminisce on times that you really enjoyed doing a certain activity with certain people. And it was just so good for you. And you're like, man, I love that. Why don't I love it anymore? Because you're not who you used to be when you enjoyed it as much. You found new things to find joy in. Drinking, exactly, same as me. I used to think it was so fun to go out and do those things. And then as I started to work on myself and grow and shifted my focus, that no longer became fun to me. Why? Because I found fun and joy in growing and seeing results through the compounded efforts that I was doing every day. That became my dopamine hit. That became my rush. I become addicted to the journey. I become addicted to the process. And by doing that, the great results started to appear. And we can say it's healthier or not, but to me, I think working on myself, shifting my identity, becoming who I need to live my stated reality every day, I'd say that is a lot more of a positive action I could be taking. Far more. And like we've discussed several times where people sometimes feel selfish for stepping away from their environment, stepping away from their friends, stepping away from things they know because they feel selfish because it's like, man, these people love and care about me. Why should I leave them behind? You don't necessarily have to. If you've got good people behind you or good people alongside you, they're going to support your growth. Those that tell you to stay as the same as you are and they call you boring and they say these things, they do not genuinely care about who you're becoming. Because all they want you to do is supplement the way they feel in that moment. They just want you to fill the room for them. They want you to stay the same so you can entertain them. That is not them caring, loving you and wanting you to attain your goals and dreams, because there's people on this call right now that listen in to me every week because they want to just support me, because they love me. My mum is tuning in on every single one of these calls because she knows that I'm doing what I'm passionate about. She's seen my journey. She knows that I share this information because I genuinely believe it with my whole heart, and how much I love sharing this stuff and seeing the results other people get. So that means more to me than a small dopamine hit and a sugar rush from being around other people that don't actually contribute to attainment of the life I want to live. So you can call me selfish, but I would rather become better so I can give better to the people I love and care about most. Does that make sense? Does it make sense to become better so you can be better, to give more to the people you love and care about most? So that you can actually provide for the people you love and care about most instead of just saying, I wish. Do you know how many events I've stood at the front of the room with 10, 20, 50, 100 people, and I say, what's your goal? What do you want to achieve? And everyone's like, I want to retire my family. I want to give back to my mum and dad. I want to do this. I want to do that. Okay, amazing. But what are you doing to do that? Who are you becoming to do that? Because we can all say these things out loud because it sounds like the right thing to say. But the people that are actually taking action, it almost becomes a turn-off. When someone says, I need to win more than I need to breathe, but you see them not taking action. You see them sitting around doing the same thing again and again and again, living in their occupied reality, taking no action to bridge the gap, and they're questioning why they're not getting results. When you're someone that takes action and you want to win and you apply these principles, that type of stuff you can see a mile off. Because now you've become a person of character. Now you can see it because you're no longer in the majority. You're no longer wishing. You're not succumbing to the pressure test. Because why does this exist? To sieve out the ones that really want it. This exists. These pressure tests, these tests appear in many shapes, sizes and forms to see how much you really want it. How many people do you think fall through the sieve here? How many people do you think fall through when it comes to actually going out and making the solid change? Because I've said on previous videos and previous lives, and I can see myself getting fired up now. I'm loving this part. Hopefully this is making sense. But there's times when you are becoming that new version of you and you will be tested spiritually, physically, logically, emotionally, mentally, whatever it may be. You will be tested, not just to see how bad you want it, but because the current version of you feels so uncomfortable it's doing whatever it can to survive. Because for this version to live, this version has to die. Imagine like a phoenix. A version of it has to disappear for the new one to exist. And it happens at every single level that we climb to. And every new level has a new devil. And sometimes that devil is ourselves. Sometimes it's ourselves and our own decisions because we get led into temptation by things we know we shouldn't do. We know aren't going to contribute to the goals we have. We know they're not going to benefit those around us, but they give us that small fix in a short period of time and we want instant gratification. People want to have things instantly. They want to see the change right now or it's not worth it. So can you see why the pressure test is necessary? Can you see why this has to happen? Because you've got to see if you really want it, because if everybody could just have it, then what would the world be? There wouldn't be any winners because there'd be no one to compare a winner to. You cannot be a winner without there being a loser. And I'm being straight up. I'm sorry if that offends anyone. But you're on this call because you want to win. So when we're seeing the daily vote, every time you make a decision, is this contributing to who I want to be? Yes or no? The more of them votes you do, you can play a fun game with yourself. If gamifying things is a way that you can get excitement or joy out of it or motivation or build discipline, whatever it may be, there's methods and actions you can take that will help you specifically take action because there's different things that people like. There's different things that inspire people. For some people that listen to me screaming and shouting, they could be sat there right now fired up. And there's someone else that's like, man, I would love it if it just calmed down and tell me this. This would be great if he just turned it down a notch. And I'm sorry if it doesn't fit the way that you want to hear it, but just look at the whiteboard. Don't listen to me. Just look at this if that's the case. But understand, there's different ways and methods that people learn. There's different things and methods that make people want to take action. So when we are voting daily for who we want to be, we cannot see this compounding. Now let me know in the chat if there's ever been a time where you're sat there, you feel like you're taking action, you feel like you passed the pressure test, you're taking action every single day, you've shifted your environment, but you're wondering when's this going to close? You're wondering when's the result going to come? When's the win going to come? When's the recognition going to come? When's the success going to come? When's the dream going to come? When's it going to happen? Have you ever experienced that in your life? Where you're questioning, I'm doing everything every single day, where is my win? When am I going to win? Have you ever experienced that? Ollie's lighting up the chat. Shout out to you, Ollie, because you're the only one getting involved right now. You might even be the only one watching. But listen, bro, I appreciate you, man, because you're keeping the chat going. But listen, when that time comes and you are questioning, when is it going to happen? It's compounding in the background on the votes you are taking daily. The votes you are applying every single day for the version of you that you want to become. That is compounding without you being able to see it. And then all of a sudden, it changes, you get the result. And what will people call you? An overnight success. People will say, oh man, he was doing this and now all of a sudden is that. They don't know what you're doing in solitude. We discussed this in the environment conversation, in the video and as well in the live. We said there's periods of isolation. There's periods where you're stepping through that transitional phase from who you are now to where you want to go to. And that can be a lonely chapter, which people admitted they've experienced. They've felt lonely in their journey. They've wondered, is it worth it? And they didn't realise in that time, all of them votes were silently compounding. And while they were compounding, it was building bigger and bigger and bigger until it coiled up. Imagine a spring being pulled back with so much force that when you release it, the velocity is unbelievable. The velocity is enough to take out a building because you have taken so much action. You've survived all the pressure tests. You've built the pressure in your success, because every day the actions you took compounded because you voted every day that I'm going to do the things that the version of me that says they're going to achieve everything does. I am stepping into this version of me through my habits, my traits, my beliefs, my actions, because I am a committed individual. Now listen, I don't want to keep going on about this. I know sometimes towards the end, Jen, amazing, appreciate you tuning in. But I know that we can get fired up and all this type of stuff, and there's not too much more I need to say about it because I don't want to just be repeating myself. But what I also want to say and ask as well, if you have any questions right now, anything that relates to this, personal questions, whatever, please chuck it in the chat, because I know that, again, like this stuff, I hope it makes sense, but I don't want to just keep repeating myself for the sake of doing it. I appreciate everyone's time, and I know that we need to really be able to put this together as a formula. But if you have any questions or anything you want to ask about this specifically, or any personal things that you're doing right now that you maybe are going through a journey, maybe right now you're experiencing growth, you're noticing what happens when you're changing your environment, you're noticing what happens when you're taking action and how you've persevered through pressure tests. Maybe right now you're in a pressure test and you're questioning, is it ever going to work out? Maybe right now you see the daily vote, you know that your actions are contributing to either the life you want to live or the life you're living now, and you're wondering, when's it going to show up? We could be going through this. We could be experiencing this. Jen, again, appreciate you, so relatable. And this is because this is things that we all experience. All of us go through this. There's periods of our life where we go through the ups and we go through the downs. But you want to be creating a new high every single time. You want to be creating a life that trends like this. Because there's going to be times when we take action. We've started here, right? We've started to take action. We're stepping into it. Maybe we've had a little slip, but it's a pressure test. Can we make this become our new low? This is as low as we're going to go because we only build from here. Yeah, we can. We get more growth. We pull back. We get more growth. We pull back. These are the pressure tests. And then all of a sudden we go absolutely parabolic and we step into the life we want to live, and no one can take it from us because of who we become in the journey. So if that all makes sense to you all, hopefully, I'm guessing it does, as there's not much being said in the chat. But if you have any questions, please ask them now, because we can just give like 5 or 10 minutes just to having a conversation. Again, I'll just leave that there behind me while I sit down, as I'm absolutely fired up, and I'll never get roasting in this house, as we've all established by now. Absolute Lee Evans going on up there. Yes, mate, 100%. So relatable. Just want to check the chat. Love this map breakdown. Appreciate you, Haley. Ollie absolutely lit up the chat. Appreciate you, bro. See, Shiv was here too. That's amazing. And Dan. Hello, brother. Good to see you on. But yeah, hopefully that was enough for you guys to really understand and be able to break down the identity map, which of course we've discussed. What about after you get progress and then go backwards? Amazing question, Jen. If you were able to give a little bit more context, because I can give an idea, but I want to make sure I can really tailor it to you. You don't need to go super specific or super personal, but can you just give me an idea of what you mean? Like when you've started to get progress and you've gone backwards, do you mean that you started to see a result and then you feel like maybe it's come back on you? Maybe that is where you've experienced a pressure test, where you started to see growth, you started to see things change, you did all the necessary actions, you started to see things turn up in your life, and then now you're wondering, okay, but it's not as good as it was. Why am I now experiencing a slight pullback? Which, of course, we've discussed here is what happens when we create those new higher highs and higher lows, because we are now building up from those previous points. But if with like, what about after you get to progress? Do you mean how do you stay committed? Like, is there anything specific you want to know about that? Because it's a great question, and the reason why I really want to go into it is, of course, to be able to give you an answer. But I know there's a lot of people right now that will be watching this and they'll be going through a period where they started to see change, started to see results, and they felt like they were getting pulled back, and they should start to question, is this even worth it? Is this even working? Am I actually going to get the results I say I want to get? And they're questions that we can all face without argument. You know, we've all experienced it at times in our life when we start to see change happening and we question, do I deserve this? Am I going to get to keep this? Is this really working out for me? So yeah, Jen, if you could just quickly chuck that in there, then I'm more than happy to answer that. And if anyone else has any other questions as well, please feel free to leverage the chat and utilize that. But with this breakdown, I have also created a full video, which of course is called the Identity Map. It was the most recent upload on Sunday, but tomorrow is the start of Season 3. Now, I'm really excited about Season 3 because, as I mentioned, the previous structure, or the intention behind the structure that we've created with Season 1, Season 2 and Season 3 is that each one builds upon the other. So first of all, we had the foundation layer, which was being able to understand who you are. Then from there, we have now had our identity series when we know that, okay, I understand who I am and what I need to change. Now I understand the actions and habits and traits and beliefs I need to build, and why shifting identity and what can come with it can make it tough, and how I can almost pass through that point. And now we're going on to series 3, which is the standard series. Now, I'm pretty sure a lot of people are going to really be able to relate to the standard series, because most of us maybe have been people that think we have high standards. If you've ever felt that you've had high standards, just drop a 1 in the chat or react to this, just so I understand that the series we're bringing out is going to be really valuable to people. Because with the standards and thinking you have high standards, it makes you believe how to get fired up again. Amazing question. I'm definitely going to come back to that. But with series 3, as I say, with having high standards, you think you deserve more. You think people should treat you differently. You wonder why people are walking all over you. You wonder why you keep accepting less than you deserve. Why do I keep saying yes to people when I really want to say no? And it's something we've all experienced, and it comes with an identity shift, because you cannot become someone new, as we've established, and still behave as the old person. So it's the new version of you that requires you to change how you communicate, how you operate. You cannot become someone new with old people habits, right? We've established this. So if you were someone currently keep saying yes to things that don't contribute to the attainment of your life, you keep saying yes to people. For example, you keep saying, I'm not going to stay back after work because I want to get home and go to the gym. I want to get home from work and I want to be with my family, my kids. I want to go and learn a side hustle. I want to make more money. I want to go spend my time outside of work on me. And then your employer comes in and says, hey man, do you reckon you could stay back for a couple hours? We need to set up for tomorrow. And you'll be sat there like, I can't say no. And you'll just say yes. And you'll just say yes to doing it. And you're sat there having this internal conflict, and you know that you wanted to do something else, and you'll be negotiating with yourself on why you said yes and why it's okay. And you'll go through all these different phases of grief, anger, frustration, and all these different things. And then you'll get to the end of it and you'll expect the other person, you'll call them an arsehole. You'll say it's their fault. Oh, they're always expecting more from me. But what we need to understand is the standards that people hold for us are what we display in our behaviours, not for what we say. So if you say to them, I'm not doing it, but then you do it, what are they going to be more focused on? They're going to say, oh, it's cool, because every time he says he's not going to do it, he does it anyway. So they're going to take your behaviour as the standard, as opposed to your words. So that's exactly what we're going into with season 3. I'm really excited about it because I feel like that's going to be one that a lot of people can relate to. And it builds on layer by layer from series 1 and series 2. But Jen, just to wrap up with your question, how to get fired up again after a pullback. Now, fired up, of course, can mean several things. You may want to feel excited. You may want to feel motivated, inspired, whatever it looks like for you that got you taking action in the first place. That may be the emotion you're trying to feel. But I think we spoke about this on the last live as well, not us specifically, but I remember someone asking a question about motivation and discipline, and what can happen when you have those pullbacks is it can feel demoralizing, right? You can sit back and say, man, was this even worth it? Was that real success? Did I achieve it? Did I get lucky? And you can start to question again and again in your mind, how fortunate did I get? Was that meant to be? Did I deserve that? And you can start to have internal conflicts. You can start to question your identity, question your self-worth, and all these things can happen, which of course is why that series is so important about building those internal pillars. But with the question of how to get fired up again, remind yourself that where you are now is somewhere that you once used to pray for. So although it may not be the same high, although it may not be the high of where you was, understand you are further along than where you were when you first made the decision to get started. So when you first decided to get started, you were probably way further back. And where you are right now, although it feels like a pullback compared to the high, where you are now is considered at one point in time a high of your life. Because maybe there was a big change. Maybe you started making more money. Maybe you saw more results. Maybe you started working with more people. Maybe something specific happened that you were like, I'm so excited about life, and it built on from there. And it made a time that you used to pray for feel like a setback. It made a time you used to pray for feel like a pullback. And we can almost forget that because it used to be better. There was a time we saw more. But you know the exciting thing about knowing there was a time where it was better? We know, 1, that it can get better, and 2, we know we can get there because we've been there before. We know it exists. We know better is out there because we've done it. We've got the physical evidence, the results. We have the physical manifestations in front of us of what the contribution of our work can do. We've seen it. And that makes us want to get it back. So you want to get fired up, imagine and think and use foresight and visualize whatever that level was, how it made you feel. And then I want you to go one above it. I want you to imagine, okay, cool, when I get back to that level, is that the level I'm going to be satisfied at? No. Because you're going to get back to, again, what was once a stated reality and then became an occupied reality. Are you going to stop there? You're not. Because there's going to be a time when you achieve that, you get back there and you're going to say, right, my life's now blessed, I'm now normal. Because we're going to reach what is called the law of familiarization, where even though at one point in time, that desired reality seems so amazing, you get there and you're like, well, I want more. I want bigger. I want better. It becomes normal. It's familiar to you. So even if the results are about income and you start making, let's say, 5 figures a month, you see that number and you start thinking to yourself, man, this is so exciting. I've never made this much money before. And then a point in time can come where 5 figures is a bad month for you because you're familiar with what it looks like. When that was a thing you used to pray for, but you're so familiar with it now, you almost lose the gratitude you have towards it. And there's actually a thing that we can use to describe this. It's called being blissfully dissatisfied. It's where you're so grateful for what you have, but you're dissatisfied because you know you can get more. You know there's better. You know you can achieve greatness. You know you can go out there and you can go to that next level. So by being blissfully dissatisfied, it's like, man, I'm so grateful for what I've got, but I know I've got another level in me. I know that there's more there. I know I haven't maxed out yet. I know there's more out there for me. So right now, if you feel like you've had a pullback, and anyone else that can relate to Jen's question, and I genuinely really appreciate you asking this, because I know I want to help you just as if this is one-on-one, but I know other people are going to be experiencing this as well, so I'm extremely grateful for the question. But as I say, right now, where you are may feel like a pullback from the previous high, but I assure you, when you get back to that high, you're going to say, I want to go one more. So sit there and be grateful for where you are right now, and just say, I'm happy that this is my low. I'm so grateful that a time I used to pray for is now considered my low. It's now here. We're now here. This is at one point, that would have been considered a high. I should have probably drew it like that to show, but let's just say it was there. That would be considered a high. And you get to build from there. You get to build from square 10. Imagine the Jen a year ago. Imagine who Jen was 2-3 years ago, before she took action in her life. And she lived like everybody else, before she grabbed the reins of her life and said, I'm willing to win. I am not settling for less. I know I can do more. Imagine if that Jen could speak to current Jen, and current Jen turned around and said, things could be better, you know, I'm not as excited as I once was. And you'd be still there like, are you crazy? Look where we are now. I can't wait to get there. Are you crazy? I can't wait to be where you are. I'm so excited to be able to get there. It's almost like the analogy of the person that's walking to work and they see someone on a bike. Then a person that's on a bike sees someone in a car, and then someone in a car sees someone driving a Lambo, and the Lambo sees someone in a helicopter. It's like there's always going to be something bigger and better, but do it with your own life because it makes you so grateful for how far you've come. You can only connect the dots looking backwards. It makes you so grateful, and that fires you up to say, look what I've achieved. Look who I am. Boosts a bit of belief, boosts a bit of self-worth, makes you realise you are a warrior, you're a soldier, you managed to get through the other side of adversity. You've passed several pressure tests time and time and again to get to where you are now, but because you're familiar with it, it doesn't feel like it. You struggle to give yourself accolades because you're so used to it now. Every day is the same to you, and that is a time you used to pray for. So when you want to reflect and you want to feel fired up, look back at Jen 3 years ago, 2 years ago, whenever you first made that decision to make a change, and say, would she be proud of me right now? Would she be proud of exactly where I am right now? And chances are yes, because it seems like you've come a long way in a very, very short period of time. And then all you have to do is look at the version of Jen that apparently was at one point one level higher, and you say, what was she doing different? Did she go through a pressure test, or was she going through a period where abundance was coming in because she proved that everything she was doing was to get to the attainment of her stated reality? I can be there because I've been there. I know it exists because I've seen it, I've done it, I've lived it. So by doing that and by following that, far worse off than you are now. There we go. There we go. And that's not to say you're not grateful, but it's a good reminder sometimes that who we've become in the journey when we've bridged our first gap from the occupied reality, I'm trying to do my hand backwards, but from the occupied reality to the stated reality, from that point, we have been through this cycle. You've experienced this cycle before. You're that much further ahead already. So imagine what Jen can do when she goes through this 2 or 3 more times. Imagine the level you'll be at then. Because there's going to be a time where you look back on where you are now and you say, oh my, she would be so proud of who we've become. So if you want to feel fired up, imagine that. Imagine a different version of yourselves. Dream bigger, think bigger, imagine bigger, visualize bigger. And it sounds so cute, I know it does. But it only sounds cute without the action to back it. Because if it's always just writing down things, drawing out things, mind mapping, affirmations, but you're not doing anything on your front, that is where it stays cute. But when you take action and you're walking towards a goal, that is you, not just affirming, but that is you going to attain what it is you want. That's the difference between people that just speak things out loud and people that actually get them, is the action takers, the ones that act first, even when they don't feel like it. So right now, if you don't feel fired up, hopefully that gave you a little bit of boost and a spurt to go take action. But go back from this call and write down exactly where you are now and where you was before you started your journey. And bridge that gap in your mind of like, man, I've come so far. I deserve so much. I am so grateful for the life I live. Where was I when I was at my previous high? Okay, what's one high past that? Okay, let's aim there. And that's how you're going to keep growing and keep building from that. So I know that was a very long and extensive message, but again, I always speak from my heart and I always say what I feel comes to me. I don't want to just give you short answers, Jen, because I know you can go out there and crush it. You do amazing things for the community we're part of, and I know you deserve to win, and you are winning. You already are. So all you have to do is keep building on from that point. And anyone else needed to hear that message, I really hope it landed in the right way. But listen, we'll wrap up there. It seems like no one else has any more questions. I love and appreciate you all. Next live, of course, will be next Wednesday, 8 p.m, and I'll share the topic closer into the week. But we are dropping Series 3, Episode 1 tomorrow, and it is about your standards. It'll be live on Thursday, 9 a.m, tomorrow, literally in 12 hours' time, roughly. That'll be live. Please go watch it, like, comment, leave a message on the comment section to say if it impacted you, inspired you, helped you in any sort of way. Share it with people you feel like could do with hearing it, because we're all succumbing at times to standards that we feel like we don't have in place. We actually do things that we know aren't really helping us contribute to who we want to be, and we keep contradicting our actions and our words. So listen, if that message that comes out tomorrow or even this live you feel like would benefit someone, please like, subscribe, share with someone, because you don't know how much impact that message could have. So listen, love and appreciate you all. Look forward to seeing you all next week, and let's win.